Former FDA Associate Commissioner Peter Pitts, thank you so much for joining us here again on NBCLX to talk about something that people may not even realize, but through this whole pandemic season, there has been an issue with hand sanitizer, and it turns out not all hand sanitizers created equal. How did it happen? Can you lay the groundwork for how sanitizers ended up on shelves that had toxins in them?
Well, first, let me say that it's really important that we practice enhanced personal hygiene. And a big part of that is using hand sanitizer and keeping our hands as clean as possible. Now, unfortunately, what's happened is since we're all doing that to tremendous volume, much more than before, there have been shortages of name brands. And what people have done, some manufacturers have done, a lot of them coming out of Mexico, is basically give us counterfeit hand sanitizers that have as one of their main ingredients methanol, otherwise known as wood alcohol, a toxic substance. It can cause nausea, vomiting, headaches. It can cause permanent blindness, seizures, comas, nervous system damage, and even death in extreme circumstances, and certainly hospitalization. And why are people doing this? They're doing it to make a buck. These people are criminals. Anybody that would put this type of an element into hand sanitizers needs to go to jail. Now, part of the problem is that the FDA only has limited federal authority relative to making people recall these products. And that's a key point because obviously when legitimate manufacturers are requested by the FDA to recall their products, they do it immediately and they communicate that recall widely. These people are not responsible players. They are operating in the dark economy. They're outside of our borders. And when the FDA says recall their products and they don't, what else do we have to know relative to these people producing dangerous products, which is why it's really important for your viewers to go to the FDA website, look at the list of products, make sure they are not in their medicine cabinets. And also, if they have any questions as to the issues of safety and responsibility of the products that they do have, they should go to their pharmacies and ask the pharmacists. They really are the experts. And of course, if they're suffering from any of the symptoms that I mentioned earlier, they should call their doctors immediately and let the doctor know that perhaps this was caused by a illegal hand sanitizer.
Yeah, those symptoms you mentioned, they are really serious. And I wonder if you could tell us, I mean, I don't want people to think that if they happen to buy a bottle that has, some poor products or toxins in it, the people who got really sick were doing more than just putting it on their hands as sort of we regularly would. I mean, isn't that correct?
That's right. I mean, a lot of people don't really understand the use of hand sanitizers really are to use as hand sanitizers because it's absorbed by the skin. And when you use it in other parts of your body, it can have effects that are not intended, even if the products are legitimate, meaning that they are what the label says that they are.
Sure,
so not only are the ingredients important, right? So not only are the ingredients important, but also how you use it is important. And again, it's not difficult. Hand sanitizers are meant to be used on the hands. They're absorbed into the body through the hands. They're meant to kill germs. So use as directed.
And lastly, I want to talk some more about this issue of recalls. I think most logical consumers would assume that the FDA or another federal government agency would step in if it was known that there were harmful products or illegal chemicals for consumers on shelves and be able to recall or enforce in some way. What's kind of the brief history of what the FDA can and can't do, and why in this case the agency was not able to do more to remediate these dangerous hand sanitizer products?
Part of it is what the FDA's authority is by federal law, and part of it is what's actually happening in the real world. When it comes to RX products and OTC products, when the FDA sends a letter or makes a phone call to a manufacturer and says, listen, we found problems with this lot of your product, please recall it. Responsible players, whether they're prescription drugs or OTC drugs or hand sanitizers, those products are taken off the shelves right away. The problem is we're dealing with criminals, and largely criminals outside of our borders. And it's not surprising that criminals don't want to take their products off the shelves because they don't care. They've already sold the products. I think where we're going to have the greatest success is when the FDA sends the names and the lot numbers to retailers and says, take these products off the shelves. Those retailers are complying, and they're complying quickly and robustly with the FDA's request. So there are responsible fallbacks relative to what happens other than the manufacturer doing the right thing. When retailers do the right thing, that's our second line of defense, and it's pretty effective.
That's good news. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, how can consumers, as they go through shopping aisles and stores, and certainly as they're staying, attentive to their sanitation, identify hand sanitizers that are sort of in the good category, or even keep an eye out for those that might have ingredients that put them, in an unsafe category?
Well, obviously, stick to the name brand, stick to the brands that you know. And if those are not available, ask your pharmacist at the point of purchase what they think about the products that you might buy. Because oftentimes the pharmacist is not the person in charge of buying stock for the store, but they have a better understanding of what the FDA has said and can give consumers pretty sound advice.
All right. That's good advice indeed. Former FDA Associate Commissioner Peter Pitts, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks again.